up, everybody, and welcome to California. I am super excited because in this episode, it's our first episode of really setting up and having everyone in person in a very long time. This was always kind of the vision for our podcast, and so to kick it off with such a special organization is meaning a lot to me and Pop. So right now we are in California, San Luis Obispo, with Operation Surf. They are an incredible organization that takes wounded veterans surfing, and they provide a ton of different resources and programs to help them stay connected to the community and also to just have hope and realize how special and connected that they really are and how much we really value them. And so today on the show we have Van Curaza, his wife Amanda, and then we also have Justin Martinez, who is a veteran that now works with them. Super excited for y'all to hear the show and also to see some of the footage that we do when we go to their actual Surfathon. So thanks for being here. Let's kick it off.
Okay, we're going live. All right. We are I'm trying to make sure I can say it right. So I am at Avila Beach. Close?
Avila Beach, correct.
Avila Beach, all right. And I'm here with young Emma, as you can see, and we are with the Hidden Pearls podcast, and we are proud to be at the location of Operation Surf. And we are with Amanda and Van Curaza, correct. Okay, got that one. So I'm not going to try to pronounce either one of those again, so we'll be all good. But so we're here to tell a little bit of the story, and so we'll do some of those other pieces. But anyway, well, welcome first to Hidden Pearls podcast, and I just want to, like, from both of us, say thank you so much for taking time out of your day to spend this with us. And we were talking about it a little bit before. The more we dug into that, I watched the Netflix special and then the CNN one and then the ESPN one. And there's been some very talented people tell some of these stories. And so we are very honored to follow in those footsteps. And hopefully we can help promote the mission that you guys are all about. And so the way in which, at least as I understand it, water and surfing can bring healing to folks, and particularly the veteran
community. Also.
Build community and relationships in that. So anyway, super honored to be here with you guys, and so we really, really appreciate that. So we would like a little bit of background so we kind of know, and we've been talking a lot off, but Van, I kind of want to start with you and your story, because this whole thing really is about your connection to the ocean. Really, I mean, what came and went. So can you just, give us a little bit of that story, about what first got you connected to the waters you're growing up and what role it played for you?
Well, all right. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for having us. It's an honor to be able to share our mission and, broaden out our reach to others to help us, carry out our mission. But my connection with surfing, well, I was an only child raised by my father through the 60s and 70s, and I was an athlete, and I played a lot of team sports. And what basically started happening is I was a very hyperactive kid. I think they now identify it as ADD, and I couldn't sit still, pay attention, but yet I had the abilities and, the talents to achieve at a higher level in the sports. And what was happening was I was getting treated by coaches not like what that would motivate me to produce. And so the older I got into team sports, the less I started to not enjoy it, not because of playing, but because of the personalities and the treatment from the authoritative figure in my life. And so I started, inching away from it mentally. Physically, I was still doing it, but I wasn't, I really wasn't enjoying it. And what happened is I was a skateboarder, bicycle, basically did everything crazy. And I started surfing, and I met some people that, inspired me to do it. And so then what happened was I started receiving the joy of surfing through the exercise, the connection with the ocean that I didn't know I was creating at the time. But what was happening was I was starting to get joy and this feeling of accomplishment through, getting better. I am very, egotistical and prideful, and I want to be the best, and so I dealt with a lot of, the culture of surfing by trying to be better than everybody else. And so with that comes a lot of, different stuff. But what happened was I realized that I was getting value, self-esteem and self-worth through my connection with the ocean that wasn't connected to a human being saying attaboy or good job, or, more importantly is the negative verbal spin on what I wasn't doing for people. So that just grew, since I was about 7th or 8th grade is when I started hitchhiking to the beach and getting in trouble to try to do it as much as possible. And, it just grew because I just wanted to be better and better at it. And what happened was I started drawing myself towards the ocean and surfing more than to, team sports. So by the time I got into high school, I wasn't treated very well by a lot of teachers because a lot of teachers were coaches. And so I just, I pulled away even more. It's because all I really needed is what I'm finding out through my, my childhood is I didn't have a mother, and all I needed was the feeling like I, was wanted or basically loved, so to speak, and so, this connection with the ocean started giving me, the self-worth for myself without any other judgment for other people. So it just grew more and more and more as we went. And so the more I surfed, the more I wanted to become a pro surfer, and and I just wanted to have a lifestyle, around the beach and surfing. I wanted to travel the world and surf the best waves and, just have this life that, I see in magazines and old surf movies when there used to be reel to reel back in those days, by the way. So, so it was, it was a journey that started just because of how I felt in society, and it was alone. Yeah. So, so that's how it really started, and then it just it escalates from there. To
let me just, because one, thank you for I think that's so. I just want to hit on a couple things. So one of the things, because we're always connected to sports in some way, as well as our veteran community. And so one of the things about sports that makes it so powerful for so many people, and I think you're tapping on it. And unfortunately, the public school system or that kind of failed you in that regard, but is this sense of connection and acceptance and that? Because, in my own world, it was football, wrestling, and swimming. And those teams for me, like as I was growing up, those are the places where I felt the most at home. Like as off the rails as I might be at times, when I was in those settings and doing what I was doing, you could feel that kind of deep acceptance. And so for you were able to kind of recognize that, and fortunately live close enough to the ocean to give that a shot. And Mother Ocean was kind of there to open arms or open waves or whatever, and provided some of that as you were kind of going through those developmental stages.
Yeah, the same feeling I got, in team sports is when everyone works together, and it's kind of like the same type of, the elements of what we try to do at Operation Surf. We try to bring this team together that everyone does their part in the bigger picture of the scheme of things. And so, when you're in that, you feel like you're a part of something. And really team sports is like when you're in this team, you get this sense of value and this sense of self-worth, and you get this camaraderie between each other. That is what I really loved about, sports, but, it was just, I didn't know how to behave, I guess, like people wanted me to. And so, which ultimately is all I ever wanted was someone just to like look at me and encourage me in such a way that it would inspire me instead of put me down. And I think that's really a big difference between a good coach and someone that's just driven through ego to win. And to try to find out how to get each player to achieve their maximum at their position and do what they need to do. This is just my perception too, also, so I don't want to put down team sports because I love it, still to this day. I really love it.
But in honesty, there's a way, because I've seen that in both sides of the world, mostly in football, but there's a way that, like you said, it's all driven at just the coach's ego and making sure players perform, and it's all about the win. But there's another approach, is that when the individual is kind of maximized in their own potential, kind of understand themselves, and they're at peace and growing, then they're able to kind of transfer, I don't want to call it Zen per se, but like that comfort level and that peace that they have within, not out of a pure competitive stance, but as a way of kind of performing at the highest level, because they are acknowledged, they are affirmed, they are welcomed for who they are as an individual, and then the athletic stuff can kind of take off out of that kind of mold.
Yeah. So, it's because right where I'm getting into my story is about where I started, going off the darker path, so to speak, and so
let's go,
cause on this at this point, it's around high school and it was like, to seek acceptance and value around people, when you're a very extreme person and you're like full throttle all the time. And, more importantly, all of that, which I find out today in my own recovery is I was avoiding all the feelings and the absence that I had as a child. I was seeking other things to cover up my true feelings. And so when I started doing that, I started, smoking pot, and I really wasn't much of a drinker because I was always alone. I always had to protect myself. And so I was very aware of my surroundings. And so a lot of, about what I've done in Operation Surf is I'm very in tune with people's, I guess their feelings and emotions, just by, reading people, because I spent my whole life just like analyzing people and just like trying to set up my safest surroundings. And so I really had to be very aware of, not only my physical surroundings, but, the people that were around me and their intentions. And so, and being, it's really hard because, through the childhood of a parent doing their best is not necessarily doing their best for, the child.
Yeah.
And, so I know my father did his best, and, my mom was, not in the picture, but, I was just trying to seek to fulfill those voids in my life through different things. And those different things took me down more of a partying path, and so I barely passed high school, and I started, trying to be an entrepreneur. So I started, getting arrested through,
business endeavors.
Yeah. So, so like trading money for substances and, you know what I mean? And just trying to do whatever I could to, to try to go surfing and do what I needed to do. So, and it's funny is because you don't really recognize, that you're going down this path. And I used to always get this comment as, Van, what are you doing? Why are you doing drugs? And it's like, you got so much potential. I go, leave me alone. All I'm doing is smoking weed. And I truly thought that that's all I was ever going to do. But, for my personality and my, and who and what I am, it eventually became not enough. And then getting around the surroundings and the society that that type of life leads, I started doing, I was more into cocaine and eventually into speed. Is because I didn't like being not aware. It's because I was always hypersensitive about my own protection and my safety. And so, I drank, I was a periodical drinker. I drank when I didn't have any drugs, but that really doesn't matter. It was basically just doing what I needed to do to avoid the way I really felt without telling anyone what was really going on. And so, as the progression goes from experimental to recreational to habitual, through these times is when it gets to the point where, like I was telling you, you get so sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I realized that my inability, since I felt like I was raising myself since I was 10 or 12 years old, that, I've survived this long, I don't need anybody help. And so then I finally realized that everywhere I was because I was making and guiding my own vehicle to get there. Like I wasn't taking any directions, and so, and so when people are trying to say, what are you doing? So we usually don't see where this stuff is going. And that's usually where, peer to peer, if I would have had other kids or even other kids a little bit older than me telling me, I was doing this is where I went, this is what happened to me. And I might have heard the message a little bit clearer other than the authoritative position, So,
And let me just check
Yeah.
in. So about how old are we when you're starting to have you're kind of, you described it as sick and tired of being sick and tired. How old are you at that point? And then where are you at in your surfing career? So can you just update us on that?
well, in my surfing career, I started young, and I was doing all the amateur stuff, and I was traveling around a little bit, and so in high school, I went and surfed in this team sport contest. It was the Caton Team Challenge down at Huntington Beach, and I thought I was doing something pretty cool, and yet when I went to the teachers and say, hey, I'm going to be gone for 4 or 5 days, can I get my homework? And they said no. I'm like, why not? I'm going to go do this cool thing. And they're, in their eyes, surfing is not good. So
They didn't have a surfing team yet.
no, we don't have surfing teams up here yet. I think Morro Bay does here, but but so as it goes on is, so I dabbled in and out, and I stopped doing this, started doing this, stopped doing this other thing, and continued to do this, and so on and so forth. So as I continue forward, I was always changing, the way my head. I was always changing the head some way or another. If it wasn't with substance or alcohol, it was through behavior. And so, getting out of high school, and then, actually moved here to Avila Beach when I was a junior in high school. I moved out of my dad's house and moved here in, I think, in 1979. And I've been here, this is basically like my home. And so as the progression goes on, I started surfing more. I got into, more professional surfing. There was PSAA, but at the whole time I was doing this, I was partying. It's because the lifestyle and the community of surfing then was really wrapped around, really aggressiveness and partying and like a rock star type of life, and not like today where everyone's into wellness and eating right and getting sleep and meditating, like all the stuff that we have now find that's super important to achieve your maximum, ability. Like we're staying up until 1 o'clock at night with a potential heat, at 7 a.m. the next day, just because so trapped into the lifestyle of what I thought I needed to do at that point. So so it goes on, and so I got better and better at surfing, but yet I wasn't not living my life to its fullest potential. So obviously I only got to a certain point and a certain level, because I was here in the Central Coast, and there's no surfing. Excuse me. There's no surfing in industry here. So to be sponsored here was really hard to get any type of financial sponsor. It's because there's really no money here in surfing. Still to this day, there's not. But back in the day, you had to be in the top 16, or you had to achieve your results in the contests, which were typically in very small, crappy surf, which, living around here as my ability started, progressing in larger, more powerful surf. And it really didn't, match up to my ability. So I was just doing the stuff. So I never really did really well in the the contest scene. And so I struggled. I lived by, the image of what I wanted to do. I never gave up, but I never put 100% into, to my craft, and, so basically I failed a lot, but I'd never lost my passion for surfing. It's because when I would surf, I would still get that feeling of achievement and value within myself. And so, but still, still partying, it's really crazy how the delusion of addiction is so powerful, because that's why I say denial is the killer, is because we don't realize how much it's affecting us while we're doing it, until it gets so bad. You have to get to the point, like, hopefully you can self-reflect and look in the mirror and actually see what really is, the root of the problem in itself, and I spent my whole life pointing my fingers at everybody else, like this happened, and this is why this has happened, and all of this is happening. This is why I behave this way, and all this stuff. And I kind of still do that still a little bit today.
We're going to hear more about that in a minute.
but as it goes forward, I started. I've had 2 surf shops. I've tried to use my abilities, my connection, and my popularity here in the community, but I just didn't have the proper structure, mindset, and I'd get to a certain point, but I would never achieve past a certain point. And but fast forward is without going, why Operation Surf has been what I feel successful is because it's my life experiences, is what my craft is, introducing surfing and being able to be open up and recognize what I just described, like all these things are happening and you don't even realize that that's part of your problem, right?
Right. So that's the beauty of the universe and life, right? Is that so much of what we go through in those early years, they're obstacles or we don't even see them or whatever. And we have no idea that they're building blocks to a platform to allow us to do whatever might have been coming all along down the road. Which all of those things kind of help you and make you who you are as you guys are putting Operation Surf out there and able to identify and work with veterans and a lot of the things that they're going through.
Well, that was all kind of by, just by chance, by mistake, is because, I'd gotten my ex-wife, I had 2 other children and, and I had absent, my parents were pretty absent in my life, and so when I had two children, Michaela and Autumn, I didn't fit the mold. I mean, I'm thankful for them now, is because they've given my kids a lot, but at the time I really didn't fit their mold for what they wanted in their family. This is just my perception of what went on, and so they were basically ripped out of my life, and there was one point where I didn't see my children for 11 years. And I used to use all these things, that to fuel my pain, which actually fueled my poor destructive behavior, which was not only through substance, but also just how I walk the earth, and so so now I have an ex-wife,
right?
And and I had those experiences of trying to fulfill these absences of these holes in my life and trying to do what I thought I needed to do, but I had no idea how to be, a husband or a father at that point, it's because I just lived a whole different lifestyle that was so selfish and self-centered because all I thought it was about myself, like what I need to do to survive. And this is what I need. Like, I'm doing this, this should be enough, instead of like, what can I do for you, honey?
One of a podcast guest that we had on last year, she always says that empathy is a leadership skill. And just in talking about, so she's a professional football coach, or was Dr. Jen Welter, but we always talk about how empathy, it's just more breaking down the barriers. And, it's more, as much as you're trying to get someone to perform at their best, it's just holding space for them to kind of blossom and do it themselves.
I completely agree for where my life is today, is because I really believe the empathy that runs through my veins is one of the reasons why I've been able to connect with certain people as deeply as I have, which to me ultimately builds trust and connection and love, is why I've been gifted with so many stories in their life, which is the stories that they wouldn't tell anybody. And so when, getting into surf, to Operation Surf, that's, I often say that I dangle the carrot of surfing because everyone wants to go surfing. And what we do is we build connection. And we're trying to build a culture of honesty and vulnerability, of sharing our stories, because no one really wants to share any struggles in their life. This most of us just want to like portray this successful image of this is who I am, blah blah blah, so on and so forth, right? And actual reality is my biggest gift was when I learned how to talk about my struggles and my challenges. Which actually, release the power of it. And, the more you get around a community that is caring and has the empathy for the journey, is you realize you're not alone. And that's one of the biggest gifts that ever happened to me after my last arrest, is because I really believe what really started this whole thing is I was sitting in the hallway of courtroom D5 in San Luis Obispo Superior Court waiting on my sentencing. And I finally realized what I was telling you, that I was finally so sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I had this realization, what I think is, the spiritual awakening that came over me, that I'm in this position because of me. And I couldn't blame anybody else. There's circumstances that were motivated by other things, but I had realized that I was sitting there because of my own choices and actions, because I was unwilling to take any suggestions. I was unwilling to hear anything like, what are you doing, man? You're basically effing blowing it,
Yeah.
And
well, as a criminal defense lawyer, former anyway, it doesn't happen very often, but like on repeat customers,
Yeah.
I've had a few of those in the hallway, or like when I go to the jail and they look at me and they go, I get it. I know what you've been telling me. And, it's like, okay. And they're like, I want it to stop. There's that realization, but it just like over time, it takes a little bit. So we'll take us from the hallway in the courtroom D5 or whatever it was. And then
I'll never forget it.
What was the pathway then to sobriety? I mean, like, so where did you start? And then just give us that kind of story. And then we got to get the missus in here.
We'll get in here, but this is exactly where I think the ball starts getting rolling, is because, I finally realized and I surrendered all of the aspects. I'm going to do something that I'm not going to figure out completely before I make the decision to move forward with it. I finally did something and said, okay, I'll do this without thinking things through.
Just got to go.
I'm just going to do this. I didn't know what it was going to do. I didn't know where it was going to end up. I didn't know how it was going to do. I just knew that I needed to do something better or different. And I knew I wanted to be better. And so when I went into the courtroom, my public defender went into the back room where they do all the deals with your life in the back closed doors, and then they come out and do the dog and pony show in front of everybody. Sorry about that.
No, it's true. No, that's like all this shit happens.
I was born at night, but not last night, right?
I know, brother. I know. You're on it.
So as they went back there, I used to party with my public defender, and he went back, and when the prosecutor and the DA and probation and the judge and my attorney were sitting back there, they kept saying, this guy's a waste of our time. He'll never get clean. This guy will never do it. And he said to them, I know this guy, and if he says he's going to do it, I believe he'll do it. He came out and told me about that conversation that happened behind closed doors. And I said, this is where my competitiveness, I think, saved my life, is because when he presented the story that they didn't believe in me and said he will never be able to do it, I said, F you, I will show you. And so I got clean through spite and through to prove people wrong, is because that actual disbelief in me, I just said, I will show you. And so it put me into the right frame of mind, not the healthiest frame of mind, but enough of the frame of mind to start moving forward to get this gift, right?
You just got to get that first step, right? So whether it's good or bad, it's just
So I went into that.
Yeah.
I went into it and I said, I'll do it. And I said, okay. And so I went into, they evaluate you when you go into the drug court system, and they try to place you with the right counselor and to the right room for whatever courses and that. So I went in there, and the guy spent he spent literally like 30 seconds, maybe a minute with me, asked me a couple questions, and then got up, and I went, whoa, wait a minute. I am more screwed up than that. There's no way that you can figure me out in 1 minute to try to place me somewhere. And I challenged him right at that very moment. And so it took him 2 weeks to try to figure out the right counselor for me to go to, is because they started to realize that I was very resistant and I was very challenging. So I went through that 18-month long program.
But you were aware of your resistance and you were aware of your challenge.
But I never realized how my behavior was affecting my life or the outcomes of things, right? And so it took time for this to happen. And this is where the beauty of this recovery process it took place, is because when I went into this process, they finally placed me, and then I had gotten a woman counselor that was pretty much a biatch, and she was really rude she was very firm to us, pain in the asses, okay? And then I did my first one-on-one with her, and I said, I said some stuff about my female issues, the lack of my mother and all this kind of stuff. And I said, what did I do? I just exposed myself. And so in that very meeting or whatever treatment, I said, I'm never going to get loaded again. And they all, don't ever say never. That's a long time. And I went and left that class, and a guy that I used to get high with he says, "Oh, I said the same thing, and the worst thing that I ever had to do was sit in her office and let her know that I was loaded again." And I said, "Oh, she will never see me loaded." More spite. So as I went forward in that stuff I was in an 18-month-long program. I didn't have one dirty test or one violation, but they kept me for 60 extra days because of my attitude. I was so challenging and resistant, and just, I just had a really shitty attitude, But what happened was I started going to meetings. I started getting around other people that had been through the journey before me. And what I got was a sense of belonging, because I realized there was people that I knew that had gotten clean and sober, and I can see the differences in them, and that it created that curiosity in me. And so I wanted some of that, and so, but the most beautiful thing is because a lot of people say, "Oh, that stuff doesn't work. That doesn't work." But what happened was I got multiple days in a row, clean and sober, and your mind changes, and your ears hear things differently. And so I may have been hearing the same things over and over again, but I heard them differently. And so the messages were starting to, they say, the teacher will appear when the student's ready. Yeah. And I really believe that my mindset, by getting clean and sober for multiple days in a row and being around people that were like-minded, that understood me, where I didn't feel alone, is where the whole fundamentals and the foundation of what we do in Operation Surf is, because that particular thing is what I really believe that is inspiring and encouraging to that peer-to-peer experience, through sharing our like-minded stories to build connection, so you're not alone, and go through the stuff, but then also recognize that health and wellness is important. Like exercise creates the endorphins and dopamines naturally than what we would do artificially through substance, and so as we start moving forward into this thing, this is where so I worked the steps very slowly. It took me years to get through them. But what happened was I realized, when I had about 5 years of sobriety, I realized that, to my innermost self, I was a very selfish, self-absorbed, selfish individual. And my solution that was given to me by my sponsor was, fit yourself to God and be maximum service to other people. And so my solution for Van was to be of service to other people. And so I was I said yes to when people were asking me to help. And that's when Janice Rasnowski, the founder of Operation Comfort in San Antonio, Texas, that was carrying and serving our active duty wounded at the Brooke Army Medical Center at the Center for the Intrepid, was met up with the Navy corpsman. He doesn't like us to say his name, but his name's Derek. I'll leave his last name out of it. But anyway, he said he used to surf, and he says, "I want to go surfing." And bless her heart, she said, "Find somebody to take you surfing, and I'll take you." And he Googled amputee surfer and found Rodney Roller here in Pismo Beach, and he was a friend of mine that did surf lessons for me, that lost his leg in a forklift accident. And so they contacted Rodney, and they came here to Pismo Beach to do the first one back in 2006. And I was working for Richard Schmidt up in Santa Cruz, so I wasn't able to do the first one. And so the second one in 2007, when they came back, I went to help them. And so what happened was I started building connections with these. They were all active duty at the time, so they're all injured from all the conflict that was going on in Iraq and Afghanistan at the point. And so I started realizing, and I started meeting these guys and seeing how their circumstances may have been different and their journey were completely different mine, but I recognized the feelings and emotions were the same. Right. So it didn't matter our journey, but the feelings and emotions were very parallel. And so then I started realizing that I started doing things that helped me. And so Operation Surf is basically a curriculum-based surf program that is based on the fundamentals of a mindset that helped Van. And so, I don't have an education. I don't have any degrees, but I have lots of experiences, right? And so these experiences is what has built, the curriculum for Operation Surf. And so so as this journey was going on, back in 2008, as I did a couple of programs for the military in San Antonio, Texas, with Janice, and Rodney and I were doing it. I'm heavily involved in the recovery community, and so I was helping this one kid. And this is how God works. It's so crazy. It's because I was giving this guy a ride to and from meetings, and he came up and told me, he goes, I can't get rides from you anymore unless you meet my house manager. And so I said, that's no problem. So I went in and, met him, and he sat me down, and he goes, what's your name? And I told him Van Curaza. He goes, what do you want to do in your life? And just straight to the point, like, what are your motives in life? And I told him I wanted to take at-risk youth surfing is because surfing saved my life. Because as I started realizing that the one thing that kept my life a little bit from going too far off kilter was surfing, is it kept my value and my inspiration to live and continue to surf is what I was basically doing all this time, and I didn't even know I was doing it. And so I wanted to help at-risk and underserved youth. And so he goes, you should start a nonprofit organization. And I'm not very good in the office. And I said, oh yeah, that sounds great. He goes, I'll help you. And I go, you will? I go, yeah. You go, you want to do it? And I said, yeah. He goes, be here tomorrow at noon. And I was like, tomorrow at noon? Like he didn't give me no time to think about nothing. And I said, okay, because here someone was helping me. And I said, okay, I'll go do it. And so before he left, he said, I want you to think of an acronym starting with an A. And so I came up with my founding organization name was Amazing Surf Adventures, because that's what I wanted to bring to our youth. And it was an Amazing Surf Adventures because my amazing surf adventure in my life is basically what I believe has saved my life. And so when we did this, I started my surf school and quit all my construction, all my restaurant work, and I started Van Curaza Surf School in 2008. And I was had an office down in Pismo Beach, and then in 2009, I asked myself, Van, are you going to be happy with what you're doing now, or do you want to do more? And so I have a disease of more. So I said, I want to do more. And so I realized that I have to allow somebody into my circle and to help me, even outside of the recovery world. And that's when I hired Amanda. And Amanda came to work for me in 2009. And she sat next to me for a whole year and got to learn. We learned a lot about each other. And she helped me do what came to be Operation Surf in 2009 is because we were given an opportunity to bring Janice back with the whole different group. And so we needed to rename it. And so all my surf instructors and I sat in my office and we were all trying to come up with names, and Operation Surf came up. And so then we started Operation Surf. Amanda was working me for the surf school, helping me, schedule surf lessons and keeping myself, on track with meetings, phone calls, and all that stuff. And then, this is, her story, but her story was she did this, and we did an event in 2009. And, like myself, when I got, this is why I don't give up, is because there was a sergeant that lost his leg, that they were trying to dishonorable discharge him because he engaged on a house what he was told not to do. But he said, F it, my job is to keep my men safe. And so he engaged on a house, and he got in trouble for doing it when he was told not to. And then there was another kid that was 19 years old, and he was a kid, and he was a bilateral amputee that stepped on an IED and blew both his legs off. And when we were sitting at dinner, and we were after a day of surfing, in spite of whatever was going on in their lives, they were glowing. They had this glow about them, and I looked at them, and I was like, I could never stop doing this. Is because in spite of whatever's going on in their life, to see this joy and the smile on their life and the engagement and the interaction sitting at dinner after a long day of surfing was where the magic was happening, because that's where the walls came down, and that's where humans were talking to humans, where there was no authority, there was nothing to prove to anyone except for just conversation about connection. And at that point it's like I started realizing that so many traits in my life can help our military population just through connection and being around like-minded people. And Amanda helped me, and she had said to me, because it's a seasonal job at the surf school, and she was going to go off and be a helicopter pilot. And she says, and she told me, goes, this was amazing, and whatever it takes for you to continue this stuff, I will help you. And that showed, I want to cry, but.
Don't cry, I'll cry.
It's okay.
But this is where I really got to see her heart and her willing to give. And so I did that first one under my surf school, is because I let my nonprofit lapse, because everyone that I got to mentor me to do the business stuff, everyone said, don't do a nonprofit. They're nightmares. They're very hard. And they kept telling me, do it, as a normal business, I was an S Corp. So he said, just do it under your normal business. And so when I did this program, and I spent all my money, and I was doing all my resources to put this stuff on, and these people said that they were going to help me. And so after I did the program, I came up to them and I said, well, who do I write the check to? And I said, Van Curaza Surf School. And they stopped and paused. They looked at me, because I had a kind of a history in the community a little bit, And so they're like, you should start a nonprofit. And I said, well, I kind of already did, And so then we got the nonprofit going again. And so we got that. We got tax exempt in 2010, because there was a lot of journey of, getting it back up to snuff. And in the meantime, Amanda's never left my side, working with me on this journey. And so we've been partners, pulling this mission off together. And then the classic love story. Aww. She fell in love with me, and I said, okay.
Kind of feel like that's not really what happened.
No. But no, it was kind of like,
she terribly underbid herself, it appears. But,
apparently, you know what I mean? But, it was funny, because my brother, because like I always tell her, why I fell in love with her is because the character of who she is as a person. She just happens to be younger than I am and very beautiful, right? And so I won this one.
Coincidence.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, it
worked out well.
Man, I know you'd kind of mentioned, I don't know if we're still on.
Okay. Good.
Okay. Well, you've kind of heard the story of the journey thus far, and we've got plenty of follow-up questions, but Van's kind of introduction to you and about the way in which it appears that you were impacted by the work that you guys were doing. So I'm just going to throw a softball up and kind of run with whatever. And we just love to hear your kind of perspective. I know I think you said 12 years you've been around and you've seen all that growth and all that. And then tell us a couple stories about his ego and how centric he is.
Well, a couple.
Okay.
Oh goodness. Well,
honesty's beautiful.
I'll say, I think God has a path for everybody, and I didn't know mine until I met Van, and until I saw, I'm gonna cry, till I saw, I experienced it firsthand, and I come from, a pretty hard background as well. Parent was single parent, addiction, hard drugs, all of that journey. And so, trying to find my own way in life, I was 21 at the time, and had ideas of what I thought, I could do to go make make my life what I thought it was going to be. And when I experienced Operation Surf for the first time, and I met a couple people in particular really moved me, and I just realized that I can do something to make a difference, and it feels good. And it felt like I could take the choice to walk away and go do something else that maybe would have made my life one way or another, or I could stay and I could feel this out. And it was the best decision of my life. I think, God guided me so greatly. I believe I have guardian angels big time. And being able to be on this journey with, Van and do this together. I think being able to do it as husband and wife, as a couple, we've been able to devote our lives to it and to have those deep, hard conversations, passionate discussions, just being able to get through challenges, that are unique that maybe a regular team couldn't have gotten through. In the early days, we were living off of, no money and a little mobile home, and half my living room was our office, and just doing anything it took to make it happen because the passionate vision.
That's when we moved up in the world.
That was when we sorry, it started in a garage. My bad. We lived in
I lived in a garage, and my office was in my best friend's house. Never mind. But anyway, that's another story. We won't go there.
Yeah. So, he's a lot older than me, but he wasn't rich. It wasn't a sugar daddy situation.
You didn't come in for the dough.
I didn't come in for the dough. No, I came in for the heart, the gold, which is in the heart. So,
were you a surfer before?
I was not. So I'm actually a horse girl. Horses got me through my youth and my childhood, and they're still my passion today. So I'm still on, how God leads you in life. Horses, trying to incorporate that into what we do and what we've learned is what I'm working on now. But I learned to surf the very first summer in that little surf school. I heard Van over and over teaching people how to surf, over and over and over. The same little, front foot, back foot, pop to your knees. And one day I was like, I'm going to go out with the kids out in the water and go, with the surf camp. And I'm going to do it. I can do it. So I got myself a board suit, went out there, and I was terrified. It was probably like 1 foot waves, and these little kids are just powering over these waves, and I'm like, wait for me. And I got up there and I caught a wave, and I did it, and I did the whole routine, and I stood up, and I was like, this is amazing. This is so fun. It was just so freeing, and to see all these little kids, and Van just out there commanding all of them, go, you go this way, that way. And I fell in love with it. I did. It's a lot of fun. I'm not quite as deeply passionate as Van, but our fan is off.
We just lost power. No, we didn't.
No. I lost my train of thought, but that's how I learned to surf, and now I just get to go play with everybody, and it's really about play. That's how it feels when everybody's out there and we're having a good time and we're laughing and nobody's thinking about their problems back on shore. It's like your own little bubble out there, and the walls come down and everybody is a kid again. So.
Okay.
So, Van, when you started talking, you were talking about that sensation of just the loving acceptance that you felt from the ocean. And it sounds like you were kind of feeling that way too. Can you guys talk into that a little bit? And maybe what does she say to you? And maybe how do you feel and kind of the sensations that you get from it?
Well, one of the things that I talk about, how surfing is the perfect platform. We have a thing around here is just tee up everyone for success. And so you keep small obtainable goals in front of people and not too lofty, is because in that way, if you don't achieve something, your expectations are let down, and then your mentality goes down and down, down, and down. But surfing actually gives you a platform to achieve small obtainable goals, not just once a day, but sometimes multiple a day. And when you achieve anything in life, you feel better. And so not only are you achieving these things that you didn't know you can do, you're actually in Mother Nature and exercising, and you are hopefully in a community of doing it with others. And so the element of fun, Mother Nature, the mental, the spiritual, and the camaraderie, and the exercise, and then the fun. And then you add all those things together, and this is why it's amazing. And it's pretty crazy, is because all of this came together by just saying yes to someone that asked for help. It's not this big idea we're going to go change the world or go do anything. Someone asked for help. We said yes, and it started just, snowballing in this stuff. And so, You know what? A good story is like we've had in the beginning when we started this, there was so much conflict going on. We dealt with a lot of amputees, people that lost limbs, and we would have people. This is the power of the mind. Like people would come here on their way and they wanted to get out of the hospital, so they said, "I'll go surfing." But the whole way here and the whole way coming here, they would say, "I'm not going to be able to surf because they don't have any legs." Because their perception about surfing is standing on 2 feet and 2 legs and riding down the wave. And so the whole time that they're on their way over here, they're thinking, I'm not going to be able to do this, because I don't have any legs. And so, this is the adaptive part, is because when you focus on abilities and not the differences, you could actually see people achieve things that they never thought they would do. So this is this feeling that you were just asking to describe, is because I would tell them, I go, look, I know you come over here thinking one thing, but I'm going to tell you what, we're going to show you how to catch a wave, how to make a surfboard work. And you're going to do things this week that you never thought you were going to be able to do. And they basically look at you and say, yeah, right. And I go, you just wait. I'll get you doing headstands and handstands, and you'll most likely, be on the cover of the local newspaper, because that's happened multiple times. Is because I've gotten them, to actually figure this stuff out with the guidance of professional surf instructors and making sure they get the proper attention to get, the ability for them to achieve these goals. Because if you get the proper attention, you're going to be able to achieve things just by figuring out the physical limitations, or not the differences, the challenges that each individual has. And when someone understands how to coach and teach this stuff and look for your need for inspiration and to alter some movement, you can get people to achieve amazing things. And this is why surfing, I believe, is one of the most amazing things, is because people do things that they never thought they were going to do. And when you do that, you look back in the mirror and you are very, very proud of yourself, even though you don't want to admit it. And that right there is what changes lives, kinda, is because I really believe doing it with others, going through the same experience together, to where they build this bond, to where all of a sudden they have this new brotherhood that they can, or this new, we call it Ohana, the new family that gets created at Operation Surf is during this journey, is that they develop this bond together, to where they're able to talk about the things. So I got, this is where it all starts happening, but I don't want to, I want you to talk to Amanda a little bit, but I have the aha moment. This just all comes from talking.
I love that it's talking, though, because surfing is not talking, and it's very individual, and it's very just like you and the board and the water, but it's these kind of two very separate but powerful types of medicine.
So when you mix all these things together with community and culture and experiences and honesty and vulnerability and just willingness, some of our biggest challenges that we have in front of us is the lack of willingness to do something that you don't think you want to do, just like it was in hallway of courtroom D5 when I just made a decision to do it without trying to figure it out, right? But what happened was me and a buddy, David Paskowitz, were in the hot tub after surfing one day, and it was just me, David Paskowitz, and Bobby Lane sitting in the hot tub. This is why Bobby always talks about our hot tub experience, right? But anyway. So we're sitting in there, and I'm talking to David because family is really important to me, and he is the oldest son of Doc Paskowitz, which is the first surfing family, here in in California and maybe the world or whatever. I don't know the exact extent of it, but they had like 9 kids, and he was the oldest, and I seen separation and discord and a lot of not togetherness of their family, and it used to break my heart because I would see it, and I was like, and so then when I talked to him, I was sitting in the hot tub, and I was saying, David, I know that you're the oldest, and when your father was gone, you were just trying to do what you thought your father would want you to do, or what you thought, even though he may not have told you what to do, but you were doing what you thought you should do, and I can see how your siblings would be resentful towards you because you were being, you were trying to make sure that the same values of what your father was trying to do. And I can see how that, could be a problem. I just want you to know that, in spite of whatever you're doing, you were just doing the best you could. And at that very moment, Bobby goes, for some reason, he goes, I was just going to come here, check the one thing off my bucket list and go home and kill myself. And you know, it was like the first time I've ever experienced that type of conversation. And, you know, David and I both heard it, and I was looking at David like I'm looking at you, and I just kind of like looked over and just kind of like kept going, like not make a big deal out of it, you know? And I was like, you know, in my head, I was like, holy shit, right? And so we started engaging in conversation about doing our best and just being involved in just doing this stuff and what our day was and all that and stuff. And I think it was back in 2011, and GoPros were just coming out. And later on at that night at dinner, I had my GoPro, and I was super into it at that time because
they're cool.
They were cool.
They're
I mean,
cool.
when they first
we have
came,
some.
We're bringing them out tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll have some
I got
tomorrow.
my wrist one. I'm
yeah.
like,
Well, now they're amazing. But back, you know, when they first came out, you know, it was like this new little waterproof digital camera, that movie camera. And so, you know, I was running around, and we were at the Madonna Inn, and we were having dinner, and I had looked at Bobby, and I had my camera, and I said, hey, Bobby, and I was filming him. I said, hey, what's Operation Surf to you? And he goes, oh, Operation Surf's like the new heroin. And I was just, I just started choking in my, I started choking. I'm like, oh, you know, I'm trying to recover. Like, what do you mean? It like takes your mind off everything. He said, no. I go, I've been prescribed every drug there is to get rid of my nightmares, and they just prescribed me lithium, and I don't want to take it. And I've been here for 3 days, and now all I do is dream about surfing. And I just went, this is it, you know? And conversation is what created this, you know? And if you weren't able to have conversations and be at a place to set a platform and environment for these things to take place, then I don't know. If they're not there and people aren't willing to go do this stuff, then there's that many people that are standing around and walking this earth alone, you know? And so through our team, our community, you know, the Ohana of Operation Surf, you know, Amanda and I, and so many others, you know, John and Carolyn O'Connell, they've been super important in this. But to be able to be in a place, and a big shout out to all the, you know, the donors, you know, and the supporting businesses, you know, that have donated a lot of dinners and a lot of stuff, because that's why we were there, is because Madonna Inn donated a dinner and I was there. And for all these pieces together to all line up for these things to like expose something as valuable as what just took place is, I mean, I don't know, you know, I believe in God, but, you know, and I often say that this is a divinely organized program, is because there was no one in charge going, oh, we're going to do this and we're going to do that and we're going to do this, this, and this. It was just like, oh, this just happened. We need to do this. And, you know, and unfortunately, but fortunately, a lot of the things that we do today is because we made mistakes. And we recognize that we did something that hurt somebody, and we're like, we can't do that anymore. We got to make sure that we do this. And then as we did this again, we said, oh, we can't do that. Somebody else was like this, and we got to do this, this, and this. And so through the time is why this thing has taken its place to where it is today, is through all of our experiences in life, doing this stuff and being willing to not only be willing to do the work, but also willing to admit our mistakes and how can we do better by it. And so the whole fundamental is this is our experiences of being better and learning is what Operation Surf is, you know, and teamwork and family. And, you know, so, you know, and that was back in 2011 and you know, okay, you talked about ego, you know, for a long time, like I had a really not so favorable, you know, path in this earth, you know, and so I didn't have much to be really proud of. And so, you know, when someone would come up to me and say, man, you saved my life, I would, you know, I can't tell you that it didn't feel my ego to go, this is great. You know, I'm doing good. And I became so passionate about it. I actually started hurting people, you know? But that experience is I also had met other veterans again after participating with us, like years later, you know, this one particular one was 3 years later. And, you know, he told me, he goes, Van, you saved my life. I goes, I was in such a dark time, but he wasn't willing to say it then. Mm-hmm. But 3 years later, he came back and told me, he goes, I was going down a bad path. And I go, my experience here with you guys saved my life. He goes, thank you, brother, because, you just need to know that. And I started thinking, like, how many other people have been through our program that haven't been able to say or repeat the actual reality of their experience with us. And so my desire to do this stuff is why I'll never quit. It's been very difficult for me, and a lot of times throughout all these years. But that's why when Amanda talks about passionate conversations, is because I'm kind of semi-crazy a little bit, and when something is happening that I don't think should be or is in line with what I have in my mind, I get very challenged, and anything and any competitive person that's out there listening to this stuff is when you get challenged, you basically bow up to succeed. But, I also realize that my perception and my thoughts aren't always the right way to go. So I have to always remember that I need to remain teachable, to do this stuff. And, and it's like, to say thank you for doing this is because if this can reach out to somebody that could really help us do our, carry out our mission, is because there's no cost to our veterans. And our job every day is going out and raising money so we can bring an experience to someone that may change a whole perception or a direction in someone's life, and ultimately, maybe even save their life.
Yeah. So, a couple questions, and I still want to take, as long as you're going to be here, Amanda.
Okay.
All right. So, I think the one thing I want to come back to, just the footnote, is you talked about creating a mindset in which this can happen. And I think you've really hit on between the commonality with everybody coming, they've got this military experience and whatever kind of disability or not, and then the surfing experience and going through that, having the success within that. And then there's a safety and a vulnerability created that allows some of this conversation to go forward. So a really powerful mix. And so there's that kind of mindset piece. And I think just the other piece I just wanted to tap into, because when you were talking about balancing, so like, if we think of it in kind of shamanistic or healer kind of terms, at least in our world, and this is kind of a common thing that we've heard, when people are working in this area, you get to, I think, appreciate that, the power doesn't come from within you solely. It's like, you're kind of an expression of either, whether you want to call it the spirit or like, we have a muse, and the power to heal or to help others heal themselves is really not something that we own or control. And it's like, there is a satisfaction to it, and you want to do it because you like helping other people, but you're right, you can get pulled into it in a way that it gets a little toxic, and now and then you divert the power of that energy to heal others because you've kind of fallen out of alignment with it. And it's a really delicate balance to own it and to have it, and then to be willing to share it, but then still recognize that you don't necessarily control the whole thing, because it like the whole story here, right, is like an energy that was really beyond, like it's like riding a wave and you don't know where that wave's going to go, and you just keep on the board and you keep following it, and now here you are all these years later in a really powerful setting. So anyway, appreciate that story. So really good, and the sobriety stuff. And so, Matt, I just want to roll back with you because Van's been going, and appreciate all of that. And it's been really...
He's an amazing talker.
It's been really good. And I really like when he teared up thinking about you. And so the moment when you kind of had that experience in that, and I don't know, so from either mindset or anything else, I just want to, again, just kind of allow you to reflect a little bit about your journey and participation in this over the last 12 years, is kind of what you've seen, if there's other pieces that you want to add.
Yeah. A journey. There's so much I could talk about in the journey, just in the journey of what I've learned, in the journey of the people I've met. I think the gift of getting to meet so many people and having, no experience myself in the military, but getting to meet so many people in the military and their journey and learning about them. And really, I've gained so many people in my life, like Bobby, who are just like family to me. Emma, you asked a question about what does the ocean feel like, And one of my favorite ocean experiences was actually with Bobby. And we went out here in Avila, and there was zero waves, like a lake, nothing. And we were like, okay. And I was like, we're just going to hang out. We're just going to have fun. And we're hanging out on our surfboards and we're looking, and the water was crystal clear. And there was just hundreds of like starfish all on the, I've never seen it before. And it was phenomenal. And we stayed out there for hours just talking about life and looking at the starfish. And like to this day, it's one of my favorite experiences surfing. And there was no waves. We didn't even catch a wave. And so, you know, getting to just journey with different people, and at such a young age when I first started meeting people with, you know, such really intense injuries that I've never seen or had experienced before, and getting to meet the person behind the injury and understanding and watching them walk through that with like such grace, all of them, and just such like, it's hard to even describe. I mean, you know, there's a lot of stories that will make me cry, but you know, we had one gentleman who was pretty young and he had no arms. They had gotten blown off, and I remember just helping him eat lunch, and the vulnerability it took for him to like not even ask me to help him eat, but to ask me without asking, you know, and to be able to help him. And he was like closer to my age. And it moved me to such a place that like, I want to help people for the rest of my life. Like there's no other place for me in this world besides to help people. How I do it may like morph and change and look different, and it may not be hands-on. It may be from a leadership role, which I got to grow into and do, which is a whole nother part of this journey that has been, you know, incredibly special for me. But just on a human to human level, helping somebody in such a vulnerable space at such a young age moved me so deeply. And as we've kind of gone in our journey, getting to kind of connect with people and on a different level, people that, you know, don't have that intense injury on the outside, but the heart injuries, and, you know, with my own trauma, learning about my own journey and learning about my own, you know, survival skills and how I face those. I mean, I'm just on a journey right alongside everybody, and, you know, facing the different, you know, challenges that come up in my current life, you know, and becoming a mother and then walking through those journeys, and, you know, just being able to share space with so many people who are on a path to want to find better for their life is beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And, you know, to be able to walk alongside with him and learn about, you know, just so many things, and his path with, you know, recovery, and my path with, you know, coming from a home of addiction. And, you know, my guardian angels, I didn't fall into addiction myself, which is a gift beyond a gift. But I have a lot of codependency behaviors and all those things that come along with growing up in that. I'm a level 5 codependent. But, you know, there's so much to talk about, but, you know, and just in the gift of being able to be, you know, a leader, and as a female and a young female, having this space to be able to do that, and being able to, I feel like, you know, Van helped me have a seat at the table because I'm quiet and, you know, I'm reserved, and, you know, he's loud and a visionary, and by doing this together, it helped me find a place and helped, you know, we needed each other to be able to move forward. He's like, we're completely opposite. He's like the vision, risk taker. I'm like the reserve, like, we got to check all the boxes, you know, careful, be careful, hold the reins, back up. And he's like, no, we got to do it, you know? And so there's like that push and pull that we take risks, you know, and then, you know, I will pull him back and say, no, we can't do that right now. And that like ebb and flow of being able to do that together for so many years, I think has been a really cool and beautiful blessing that you get to do when you're a husband and wife team. And, you know, having our daughter in it is another blessing, and showing her that world is
All right. Well, I thank you for that. And then I guess just as long as I'm talking to the executive director, right?
Perfect, because that is a really important thing.
That's big. That's big time.
She is huge in this thing, and she has developed herself into be such a power woman that is very impressive, that people should know, like, that people do know it, that, she's the operation and I'm the surf. But as she has grown, she is very intelligent and is self-taught with inspiration and mentors of other people to be able to do the job that she does for our office is absolutely, impressive. So, you do deserve.
I think that's his way of saying thank you, honey. All right. Well, then tell us, just because we are in the midst of the Surfathon.
Yes.
I was going to say Operation Surfathon, but I guess that's okay. But anyway, so why don't you tell us that? So we created a team this week, and we're trying to do what we can with that. But it looks like things are going well from all that. But give us a little bit about what the Surfathon is, and what's going to happen tomorrow, and how people can help and support.
Perfect. So our Operation Surfathon is our biggest fundraiser of the year. The proceeds help fund our programs. Like Van said, our programs are no cost to any veteran. So it costs about $5,000 to put one veteran through our program. So we are, you say more?
2000.
Well, with flights nowadays, it's coming up. Yeah.
Everything is more expensive.
So this fundraiser, it's really, really critical to our organization and our operation to be a success. So we have a $100,000 goal. We're at 86 as of this morning, so we're so close. And the Surfathon it's a peer-to-peer fundraising model, so anybody around the world can do it. 10 minutes of exercise equals one wave. And the goal is that on Saturday, August 20th, we will all come together. Everybody, wherever you are, will do, however many waves you set out to do. And you get pledges for that and get donations for your own campaign link. And we all come together to raise the money.
There we go. Okay. So we're, going to surf and walk, and I've been practicing my bike, so I'll get a little bit of 10 minutes there. But so
we could do
it's
yoga.
all good.
Yeah.
I would love to do yoga.
Yeah, we could have a little,
yoga.
we could have we saw one of the clips that looks like surfboard yoga out there a little bit on occasion.
Yeah.
So we saw a little bit of that. So, okay. I guess I do want to transition because we have Justin here. So I want to do a little bit of that. Anything else about the combined story that you guys want to, I don't want to like sever anything if there's something left over that we should kind of talk about. So we want to have Justin kind of explain his participation.
I think there's one thing I can't not mention is how there is more space in our upper level of our leadership team that is needed. And if there's people out there that do possess, skills, experience, the ability to raise money, is because this ongoing full-time job of raising money to help our military is, 24/7. And we have a few seats on our board that need to get filled. And I think it's important to always, I just know that when you ask for it and put it out there, you'll have more chance of it coming and being fulfilled if the message is putting it out there. And so we're always looking for volunteers. We're always looking for people that have the ability to help a small organization like us to achieve the tools and resources for us to grow in a healthy way. And so we can, get to the other many goals that we have in the organization to, to create platforms for hiring more veterans. And, there's so much more that goes on in my head. And so until we could actually get the actual tools and resources and the manpower to be able to grow more, to do more, is because people ask us to do stuff all over the world. And we have to say no, is because we are only able to do so much. And that's okay to serve what we do right now. But something like this has the opportunity to help more people, and it can help more people with more support. And so if you're out here listening to this stuff and actually hearing the passion and the empathy behind all this stuff is no matter what Operation Surf is, it's a business also. And there's a lot of challenges in business that come along with so caring and serving and helping other people. And so you can reach out to us any way you can. I'm not going to throw out the commercial other than say, Just that we need
We'll
help.
have it all linked in the show notes.
Yeah,
All
we
links
just
will
need
be in
more
the
If this
show
is your
notes, yeah.
calling, I will have it linked for you.
Yeah, so if you're interested, you can kind of check it out, and people volunteer.
Well,
So
and something that like we've been really, as we're evolving through the years of doing this, and we're going into year 3 now, but so it's still kind of a little baby, but she's growing. But something that what we've kind of realized over the last year is that our goal is to change and unite the world through storytelling, and it's so. I knew that was going to be a part of what you guys are doing, but I feel like that's like such a core thing, and so it's so cool to find another organization that's so aligned in that way.
Yeah, I think it builds connection. It also builds the ability to face. And I tell a lot of people the only way to get through something is get through it, not avoid it. And most of our unhealthy behaviors come through trying to avoid. And there's nothing like being empowered by a support of other people and not being alone. And so, the only way the only way I believe that the support comes is through conversation. And so when you get to a place that you could actually have honest, open, timely conversations with people, you can really help yourself by letting somebody know what's going on with you. And so places like there's lots of different, means to have this happen, but Operation Surf, does bring in surfing, but it also brings in a community and a culture that is based on honesty and vulnerability.
okay, well, that looks like a good place. We can we'll take a short break. This is where we'd fill in all the sponsors if we had any, but anyway, we don't.
Someday, sponsor us.
So we'll take a little break and we kind of change seats, and we'll come back and talk to Justin for a little bit.
Thank
All
you
right,
so
great.
much.
All right, thank you.
Wow. Action!
All right, guys, welcome back to part 2. So now we have with us Justin Martinez.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you guys.
Yeah, thank you so much for sitting down. So we thought, Van, maybe we'd throw it over to you to introduce him and kind of give us the whole Justin spiel.
Well, it's kind of crazy because, Justin came in our program, I think it was in May. And, we always get these veterans that come in, and we're going, okay, we try to get them all set up with all their equipment and everything. And this guy just starts shredding, and I'm like, who is this guy? But anyway, Justin, he came to us from a really good friend of mine, Johnny Benton, which is me and him have become really, really close. Talk about stories I didn't talk about, but and so he suggested Operation Surf after he commented on one of our stickers on his truck, and so Justin came out, to come visit and come do our program with us. And it's funny because right now is like we're in this recruit type of style of participants, is because we feel that we want to bring in the veterans that have some of the traits of the values that we need to build our structure, because I really believe that I'll always be the face, but the veterans themselves are going to be the voice. Mm-hmm. And I think in order for us to improve in such a way that we can grow in the way that I really see us growing is going to come from our veterans and our past participant alumni getting more involved with us. And so, not only was he suggested by a really good friend of mine, he came and actually checked a lot of the boxes that we were looking at during our application process, is because, there's only so much that I can do as a surfer to communicate with veterans. But if we can get more veterans moving into the place of being able to share the story and how we need it shared to understand the value of vulnerability and the power of, your own journey and your own story to help somebody else connect and understand like they're not alone, is I can't do that. And I never will be able to do that at this point, it's because, of where my life is. And so Justin came to us, and not only has he had past experience in, working with wounded warriors and the administration part and helping with other veterans, and he's got a service heart also, and he has a long career in the military himself and has combat experience, and he has a little bit of surfing experience, and now he has an alumni of Operation Surf, and so he's got all these little boxes of not just being a cool dude, well, lots of bitchin' tattoos, but he's a guy that we believe is moving in the direction to get more involved with us, to help more veterans as a veteran. And so he is coming out here. He's in part of our fundraising team to help lead more of our alumni into helping us do the outreach to do the hard ask. And there's, and so we really believe when he's inspired to help us go ask for the resources that, we need to continue. So Justin is he's a warrior hero in my eyes. And, and he turned out to be a pretty damn good surfer. You were doing some pretty amazing stuff out there in the water there, Justin. So
Trying to be like Van. That's all I was trying to do.
There we go.
oh my God.
Okay, Van.
Well, all right. Well, Van, thank you for that intro. And Justin, we really appreciate you being here. And I know we're fortunate to coincide with Surfathon, which is happening tomorrow. So we appreciate you being there. So I'm just going to, a little clip. So I got your bio, and dude, there's no way, that's a whole separate podcast. So maybe we'll follow that up. So, but anyway, got into the military, U.S. Army, 96. And then between 2003 and 2013, if I got that, or 2010, I'm sorry. Yep, you told me. Okay. 3 deployments, eventually retired in 2016 with 20 years and 4 months. And then the service awards, I won't read them all. You can talk about either, but I think there's 11 of them. So many of them combat related within that context. So I guess just again, thank you for that. And just tell us a little bit about getting into the service and your kind of experience there, and I guess eventually getting out, and then we'll kind of jump into some Operation Surf. But maybe just share with us, if you're okay, parts of that backstory, just so we have a little bit of context about what you brought to Operation Surf.
Yeah, so like I said, joined the military in 96. So the reason I joined is, my dad was in Vietnam. He was a Marine, or is a Marine. Marines always a Marine. Yeah, always a Marine. So my grandfather was in World War II. He was actually at Pearl Harbor in Hawaii when they got bombed. So he was in the Navy out there. And then my uncle was in the Marines as well. So I have a background of, military. I'm the fourth of 4 boys. So I'm the youngest, and I'm the only one who, out of those boys who joined the military. So because I just wanted to serve. So I joined up, and without any type of wartime, there was no wars going on back in '96, right? And it was just kind of like a 9-to-5 job at the time, and so I never thought I was going to be headed to any type of Middle East or any type of war. So, but yeah, 9/11 happened, and the world changed for sure. The country changed, and so I was part of the first wave of troops to go over there, 2003, and I was with 3rd ACR, and we were with the Marine Expeditionary Forces out there. They were basically ground forces, and we were helo, heavy tanks, so it's with 3rd ACR, that's M1s, Bradleys, all the heavy firepower and all that stuff. So we first went over there as a defensive stance. We took a defensive stance, and then, shortly after, the major combat was going on, we went to a peacekeeping stance, right? So rebuilding. And shortly after there was a peacekeeping, it started going opposite, right? So, we started getting attacked and all that stuff again, and by Iraqi forces out there who later became ISIS. And so, I did a year out there, and came back. I was stationed in Fort Carson with 3rd ACR, and then came back to Fort Carson. 10 months later, we redeployed back out. So I only had 10 months back on U.S. soil. So I went back out there, and still with 3rd ACR. And, we were part of a major defensive operation out there under the command of Colonel H.R. McMasters. And, General McMasters now, well retired. But so did that. And, during all three of these deployments, it was pretty rough, so we lost a lot of soldiers out there within our units, within our unit. 3rd ACR, I think the first time we lost over like 50. And then second deployment, I think it was a little bit more, it was like around 60 something. And then third deployment, I was actually, so I'll kind of rewind, came back from the second deployment year out there. And then when we came back to Fort Carson, 3rd ACR, we reflagged, went down to Fort Hood. So 4th ID and 3rd ACR swapped. So 4th ID came up from Fort Hood. 3rd ACR went down to Fort Hood. And so we stood up this whole new infantry division, right? So at that time, I was first sergeant of the unit out there. We stood up, and it was a mess for sure, and it was a lot of struggles. A lot of people coming back from combat, a lot of issues, unseen issues, a lot of wounds of war, invisible wounds of war that these soldiers were coming back with. So there's a lot to deal with at the time. And then knowing that we were on schedule to redeploy within 3 years. So we had to set up, we had to, train up and then get back out there. So, with 4th ID, I was part of 110 Cav. And, so I was supported a cavalry unit and, redeployed with them out there. And, did a bunch of combat logistic patrols out there. Did a lot of recovery missions, with attachments to the cavalry and the infantry division out there, or infantry units out there. So, it was crazy. It was tough. And then after a year out there with 110 Cav, came back and I switched over to become a warrant officer. So I got selected as to become that. So I went to school, for I think a year and some change. And fortunately, I never got redeployed back out there. So I was a warrant officer in CONUS. And so, and then I got hurt, out when I was out at Fort Carson. Fort Irwin, I was stationed out at Fort Irwin. I got hurt out there, and I did some recovery out at San Diego Naval Medical Center out there. And, so got out because of my injuries, but luckily I'd already hit my 20-year mark. Right. And with my recovery and all that stuff, it took me out to 20 years, 4 months. No one's really counting on that though, but so got out and hit a crazy depression. So
let me just stop for a second. So you went through a whole lot, and there'd be a lot to do that. So one, I want to say thank you, for that commitment, that service, and I can hear it in your voice. Yeah. And I know, there's a lot more to those stories and the men and women that you served with. So we appreciate all that you did and what you're carrying today. So
I appreciate that.
Thank you for being here and really thank you for sharing your story. And again, hopefully maybe at some point down the road we can circle back and kind of do that a little bit more justice. So 2016, then you hit that 20-year mark, 4 months. And so that really kind of starts to lay the foundation for eventually showing up at Operation Surf. But a lot of our veteran stories, that's really where the story gets, as hard as the deployments are for a lot of the men and women that we meet and talk to. It's what happens after, they get out of the uniform. So talk to us then a little bit about that transition. So leaving the military after 20 years in, both you have combat stuff and just being in the military for that long and those kind of things. And so what happened, what transpired from 2016 until you eventually made it out here to Operation Surf this past May?
Yeah. So, it doesn't matter how long you were in the military. So when you're in the military, you have, your brothers and sisters, right? So what we talked about earlier about being a part of a team, I think it's just in our DNA, where we all want to be part of a team and we all want to be accepted somehow, right? And so that brotherhood and that sisterhood with your brothers and sisters in arms. There's just it's a camaraderie that I cannot ever explain. So even when you go to combat too, because you're right there with you're right there looking at their back, making sure you're taking care of them too, and they're taking care of you as well. No matter what you might have going on personally, between this guy and that guy, you're always going to be protected. So, when I get out, for me, as a senior leader in the military, I lost my sense of purpose, because, in my eyes, I guess, I don't know if this is too egotistical or whatever, but I was somebody, right? So, I was in charge of a lot of stuff. I was the right-hand man to the colonel. So when I got out, that all ended. Nobody needed me anymore. Nobody needed Chief Martinez anymore. I'm just Justin. And so I lost my identity. I wasn't putting on that uniform on every single day. And now, I always try and tell people this story when I'm in the military. You're wearing the uniform on base. People step out of your way, right? Younger soldiers step out of your way. They open the door up for you and all that stuff. And, it's all the custom and courtesies and all that stuff. And then when I'm going on base, I got my beard and, not wearing a uniform and all that stuff and getting doors slammed in my face, people not keeping the door open for me. So I'm just like, what the hell's going on here? Like, this is not what I'm used to. Right. So yeah, the sense of purpose was gone. And, so I lost myself for sure. And, then you bring your anger out on, your loved ones, right? So, I was a new dad, and, I was a stepdad too. And so, sorry. So, I was treating my kids like they're my soldiers, because I wasn't in charge of anything anymore. So my kids are going to listen to me like my soldiers did. So I put a lot of, I hold a lot of guilt for that, because, I disrupted their childhood with my anger and with, the way I raised them. And so, having difficulties, I was married at the time, and having difficulties trying to maintain that marriage when, of course the mom's more, coddling, and, she's a mom, right? So here I am, trying to run the house like like my platoon or like my company or whatever is not the way to go. So, we were arguing, and so it was just a lot going on, just like I said, me getting out of the military, not knowing what I'm going to be doing, not knowing if I can succeed, so you always, and two, when I got out, I was like, everybody's going to want me, all these companies are going to want me because I was somebody in the military. I have all this training, I have all this stuff in the, military background. Everybody's going to be knocking down my door. That wasn't the case. So I was tossing out applications, places, and I was just like, kept on getting denied. And I'm like, what is going on here? Like, this is not what I'm used to. And so, I'm not taking anything away from this, but, like I was even applying for, like a greeter at a gym, like the front desk guy, like, so I'm not taking anything away from that position. Yeah, no. But I'm just saying, like, I was just like, man, this is crazy, because I have way more experience than, what I'm putting my applications out to now. So, I went through a crazy depression, and, it was hard. So, I finally got hired on to a nonprofit, because even in the military, I was really huge on just trying to help and just trying to take care of people, trying to take care of my guys and girls, and it's just always been in my blood. So with this nonprofit, I was working with wounded veterans and all that stuff, and families and everything. So I had my sense of purpose back, so that gave me a lot of purpose, and that gave me a lot of joy helping other people out. But at the same time, I had my family life, so I was still, Chief Martinez in the household, in my eyes.
Yeah.
Right. So with that constant, bickering back and forth with my wife at the time, I just, like we said earlier, I'd go to work with a smile on my face. I go to work joking around, people thought, I'm okay. And little did they know I wasn't okay. And, so in October 2019, October 2019, me and my wife at the time, we got in a big argument, and I'm a concealed carry out in Colorado, and I have a gun in my truck. So I went and grabbed the gun, my kids had just got done. They were just leaving, and so my stepdaughter, she was 16 at the time, and so after the argument, my ex told them to leave, get the rest of the kids and leave. And so when they were leaving, my stepdaughter at the time saw me grab my gun out of the truck, and then she instantly called my wife at the time. And I was going upstairs. I was going upstairs to do it in front of her, because I felt like she was the one that put so much pain on me, but she wasn't the one. She was always trying to help me. Like, she was always constantly trying to help. And I didn't see that. I was like, it was hard. So, but she had already been notified by my stepdaughter that I had the gun. And so it was in my pocket, and we had 3 floors in my house, and I met her at this, when I was arguing with her, we were on the 3rd floor, and she had been onto the 2nd floor. So she kind of caught me, kind of came out of the room, and she grabbed my pocket. And so we were kind of wrestling over it a little bit, and my stepdaughter, I guess, my ex at the time, or my wife at the time, she told my stepdaughter to call my buddy, who was a medic, who was my medic out in Iraq, the last deployment, and him and I went through some stuff together. So we had that really close bond, and he lived right down the street from me. So he, within 5 minutes, he was at my house. And so that's the only thing that saved me, I guess. And he came because, and of course I hid the gun, and he's like, "Where's the gun?" I was like, I don't have a gun. I don't know what the hell's going on. They're all lying, kind of stuff. So yeah. So if it wasn't for my stepdaughter, I don't think I'd be sitting here right now. Yeah. And so it's hard. And I still battle, and you don't have to be a veteran to battle, right? Right. Everyone goes through trauma. We heard about Van's trauma. We've heard about Amanda's trauma. Everybody, civilian, veteran, whoever, you always, we're all going through stuff. So I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, just because we're veterans, we go through hard times. So, yeah, it was rough, but I still go through some rough points. But so I went to so with my TBI. So I have 2 TBIs. One severe TBI where I was. So I had it was, I forget what they call it now. It's like amnesia, but it was for about 6 months I had that, and so I was pretty. So there was a 3 millimeter spot on my brain that had died, and but the doctor said that the brain is a crazy thing; it regrows itself, and so it healed itself after a while. But in that meantime, there's a lot of cognitive issues, and with the TBI, my ex-wife, my wife at the time, she did a lot of research for me, because I was just like, I'm fine, I'm fine, and she was just like, no, the symptoms of TBI, or the aftermath of TBIs is pretty severe, impulsiveness, anger, all this other stuff. And so she reached out to a couple friends, and they introduced me to the Marcus Institute for Brain Health out in Denver. And it's a donation fueled program, so the veterans never have to pay for anything, or any type of insurances or anything. So So I went through that program. Well, you have to get accepted into the program. It's a 3-day intake. And if the doctors there, think you're a good candidate, then they'll bring you into the 3-week program. So I went through that program, amazing program. So I'm definitely giving a shout out to Marcus Institute for Brain Health out in Denver, Colorado, at the Anschutz Medical Center. So, I went through that, went through a lot of EMDR, did a lot of stuff for my brain and to try and fix it and try and make me a better person. And, getting on some of the veteran programs that I was able to get onto because I was working and, taking care of others, and I never took time to take a knee for myself. So that was pretty painful because I was always focused on other people, always helping other people, which I enjoy, but I wasn't fixing me. But my ex, or my wife at the time, she wanted to help me, and she was trying to do all this stuff for me. Like, you need to stop, you need to do this, you need to do that. I'm fine. And so,
and actually, I mean, in a way, Van, you said some of the same stuff as service to others can actually, it's just kind of another narcotic or drug in a way. Like we can be so involved there because it gives us a shield to protect the things within ourselves that we're not quite ready to deal with. And so we feel good about ourselves because I'm helping X, Y, all these people and doing all that kind of stuff. But when I go home at night, I haven't done any work on my own closet or any of the other stuff. And so it's a very frightening thing to take that hard look in the mirror and try to unpack some stuff. So anyway, just thanks for sharing that story and how hard all those kind of pieces. And I'm not cutting you off at all, but I just mean about how that's a common, we want to do other things for other people and we kind of protect ourselves from it. So, but it sounds like eventually you started to open some of those doors up and taking a look.
So I had stopped employment with that organization after 5 years because I was supposed to be moving down to San Diego, but some things with life kind of happened, and I wasn't able to get down there. So I found myself unemployed, but I had my retirement and I had my VA disability and all that stuff. So I was good, and I tattoo. I've been tattooing for 25 years, and so. I have my own shop, so it's, I was fine financially, but I was just like, I need to focus on myself. I need to figure something out. And then, Van was talking about Johnny Benton. He's one of my close friends, and I was over at his house one day, and I saw the sticker of Operation Surf, and he told me about it. He told me it's a surfing program. I was like, man, I haven't been on a board in I don't know how many years, 20 plus years, and so. I looked into it, and I looked at the website, and I was just like, this looks
pretty dope,
freaking cool. Yeah. This looks really cool. So,
and that Van dude is really cool.
Yeah, Van, like he's a professional big wave surfer and all this other stuff. I was like, that's my culture. I love being around just the surf culture.
Yeah.
The beach culture. That's just my thing. Like I can be in flip flops and board shorts all day long. Okay. I'd be doing that right now if I could.
Yeah.
Just sitting here with no shirt on and showing my dad bod, right? Was we talking about Madison? Yeah. So, but yeah. So yeah, it's just, I just like, the whole culture is just what I'm used to because I'm from San Diego. So I was born and raised there. So, I got on the program and I was blown away. Right. So I was expecting, cool, like come out here, we'll put you in a little.
Well, let me do this because we talked about the quote that was in your bio.
Yeah.
So let me just set up your conversation. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Let me just do that. So, and you talked a little bit about the kind of the suicide thing, but in October 2019, I would have been a suicide statistic if it wasn't for my ex-wife fighting me to grab the gun out of my hand, and my stepdaughter was able to call my good friend, medic during the final deployment, who lived nearby, and he came immediately to be with me. At the time, I felt nobody understood the pain and depression I was enduring. I have suffered since and have fallen into a dark place, which I continuously battle. But since I have involved myself in organizations like Operation Surf, I feel like I'm part of a team again, and I have my purpose back. Van and his team have given me that purpose again, and the ocean has healing elements that I cannot even explain. The waves and ocean are definitely my zen, and the entire staff at Operation Surf is what drives me towards internal healing, so that it can be an advocate and example of what Operation Surf does for the veterans it serves. So tell us a little bit about that Zen and maybe some of the healing that you experienced and why, if you can explain it. The magic of the ocean is pretty tough to.
Yeah, the magic of the ocean is something that is unexplainable for sure. It's just, I can literally sit on the beach and do absolutely nothing but sit there and listen to the waves crash, or even if I'm at the bay, where there's no waves, just the water and just the tranquility is like something that I cannot explain, and I'm trying to, I would like to spread that word to whoever's listening on this, where they, if they've never been near the ocean and they need some type of, Zen in their life or healing or whatever, I invite them to look up Operation Surf and give them a try and have them come out here. And, so when I got out here with Van and his team, from even the canteens that we're part of, prior to the, to showing up, so we have a face to the name or name to the face, all that stuff. And so got to meet everybody, and I was like, I don't know, it just, like I said, everyone was just super cool. And, I felt immediately, like part of the family. Yeah. And, and I was like, oh, maybe it's a front, maybe I'll get out here and it's completely different. No, like soon, I remember Amanda picked me up from the airport. No handshake, it was a hug, right? So, she's just like, oh, we're so happy for you. Just from when we arrived to when we left and even after, just the whole team, everyone was super helpful. Me and Van and Dave, and, we get to sit in the pool and just chat, and, just kind of learn more about them. And, Van's not like, oh, I'm the founder, I'm too good for you guys or whatever. He's actually sitting there and talking to us. And, and then even when I got out in the ocean, Dave's out there surfing, Amanda's out there surfing, the whole team's out, Van's out there. And, I have a story about Van when he was like, oh man, he's like, Justin, come over here. Like, and I was super excited. I was like, oh dude, I'm gonna go surf with Van. Like just me and him freaking paddled. I don't even know how far it was. It was, my arms felt like they're gonna fall off. Right. And I remember like I think he got a call on the radio or something because something happened or whatever. And right when I got there, he's like, oh man, I gotta get inside. I gotta go inside. I was like, what? I was like
I can't lift my arm anymore.
I can't even lift my arms, man.
I know, dude.
And so that was pretty painful, but it was
ditched you right off.
Oh, it just ditched me right away.
Duty called, man. I was just like,
I know it wasn't on purpose. He had, he's the big boss. Well, Amanda's the big boss. He's the smaller boss. So
she's the operation. He's the surf.
Yeah, exactly.
And if the operation calls, you got to go.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So, but just the camaraderie. With when we do dinners and we do the, what's it called? Is the highs and lows. So, they go over, hey, what was good today? What was, what did you feel today and all that stuff. And that was super important because it had everybody open up. We broke bread, and chatted with each other first, and then we talked about all that stuff, and it got really emotional too. So,
we watched the recap of the days because they're, we take pictures during the days, and so when we surf and we show people pictures, you turn into little kids, like the laughter of all the falling, and and then the clapping of the celebrations of the victories, and it just gets the laughing going, and laughing's healing. And so when we can get over our taking ourselves so damn serious, then it just sets us up. And then I'll let him talk about highs and lows, is because it's a very important part of what we do. And so
the highs and lows is just everybody opening up and everybody being vulnerable, and knowing, because this is, so I don't open up a lot about my situation, I kind of listen a lot, when people are talking, and because I don't think I opened up about it during our highs and lows, because a lot of other people were talking about it. Mm-hmm. And I'm real private like that, but I'm starting to open up more about it. because it's very important that, I'm sure you've struggled before. I'm sure so there's lots of struggles out there that we don't talk about. And I don't, like I said, I don't know if it's the ego in me or whatever. I'm okay, but I'm not okay. Right. So we got to talk about it.
Well, let me just to tag, I think in a lot of ways, the resistance to talking about it is fueled by the wound that is trying to be hidden. And so like, it doesn't want to be talked about because once you name it and you put it out there, it loses its power over us. And so I think a lot of that resistance kind of mentally, I don't even think that it's necessarily, the self, in that way. I think it's that part, kind of pushing back and saying, I don't want to come into the light. I don't want you to name me. I don't want you to talk about me. Sure. And so they put all these obstacles up to avoid that, because once you start doing it and sharing it and talking about it and put the light on, you're like, yeah, well, you're kind of ugly, but you're not that. I can handle this. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden you demystify it, you depower it, and then it's something that you can get your hands around. So, so naming it is just so utterly important. Even if it's just a one person to make that one call and say, this is what I'm working on right now, and I'm scared to death of it, but I need some, whatever, and just to put it out there. So anyway,
it completely makes sense because I've had conversations with my friends and. Like this, I just got in a breakup with my last relationship I was with 2 years, I was with my ex-wife for 10 or 11 years, and then I just broke up with my girlfriend now. And I went through another crazy depression, and my friends would call me and you good? I'm like, yeah, dude, I'm fine, dude. And as soon as I get off the phone, I'm not good, cause I guess I'm lying to him, and I'm lying to myself too, right? So, even my dad checks up on me all the time, and I'm fine, Dad. So, Van's even called me. Van called me one time, and
I called you out.
He did, yeah.
Right,
no, I called you out. Yeah, I'm like, hey, guy, like,
that's bullshit. That's bullshit.
Like, no, you're going through. Like, come on.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, and then it's like. And right back into the same old stuff. But anyway, you're working on it and getting better at it, and I guess that's the important part. Yeah, it's about practicing, and it's hard to let those perceived weaknesses through these issues when in fact when you speak about it, it takes the power away from it. Yeah. But I've identified it as the fear of judgment, of someone might think of me. And, trying to, portray this, 20 years in the military and, this pro surfer and I do all this and do all that, but yet I'm going to expose something that, I'm challenged with, it paints a picture not like I want to be perceived, and so I realized the fear, and this is where I think the pride keeps me, to not paint the picture that I'm not okay. But I say I'm okay, but yet saying I'm not okay is actually the best thing you could ever do for yourself when you're around the right type of people, right?
Yep.
So
and that's a key point, the right type of people.
Yep. That's why the whole thing is kind of magical in the way, because everybody has not the same experience, but a common experience enough that it feels safe. And then between the surfing and some food and the pictures and people are laughing, and then there's a safety and a vulnerability that's created in a way that just doesn't happen naturally.
And I think that's what it was too, because, like I said, I don't open up much, but when, when I'm sitting there listening, like the guy that we talked about earlier, right? Like we didn't know, we didn't know that he was going through anything until he came to this program and kind of let it out. And I was just like, holy crap, him? Because we were just laughing and joking on the canteen, and so when I heard everybody else kind of talking about it, I was like, okay, like people go through stuff, and so this whole program has just been amazing, and now so when I was talking to Dave and Van in the pool, I was just like, you know what, I was like, I want to help. I just want to help. Like I don't need any type of paycheck. I want to help. I just because I believe in the mission and I believe in what you guys are doing, and it's a really cool program. Like it just the everything, accommodations, everything that they provide is just amazing. So, you know, and then, so yeah, I got involved, and, you know, I'm part of the fundraising team, and, you know, it's a slow start because I was still battling with, you know, what I was going through.
Yeah.
So it was cool because, you know, Van let me take a knee, and he's just like, hey, take a knee, dude. You know, like, I get it. You don't have to come out hard charging. Just we'll get this done. And so
for the long haul.
Yeah. And so it's, and yeah. And you know, I came out here, and I just want to help. I love just everything about it. And so I'm very happy to be part of this, and, you know, in any capacity that they can offer me. So, yeah.
So I just want to make a comment on taking a knee in the process of doing something. Is, you know, during this journey, you know, we've had other veterans get involved with us, and they get so passionate about it, and they just like, I'll do this. And then part of my learning through this stuff is I realize that there's a certain part of giving and doing and being a part of, but then all of a sudden it starts to weigh on them, and it starts to not fill their cup. It starts to deplete their cup. And so part of our message about when we are working with the population and we're working with people in general, like, it's really about, you know, we're going to keep you in line, but you also need to let us know that when you're not being served, that it's okay to back off a little bit, and you don't have to like keep this pace going just because you're here. Doesn't mean you have to keep doing this, because what we really want to do is promote wellness, and, you know, the ability to like have a safe place to say, yeah, you know what, I'm not doing that good right now. I need to take a knee right now. And so when he was finally admitting, well, when I called him out and not being okay, it was like, hey, you don't have to do all this right now. Just take care of yourself, do what you need to do, and, you know, we can pick up, and, you know, in that way he's still here.
Yeah.
You know, and he's not disappeared from the organization. He did what he needed to do to like, okay, like, I'm ready to go, you know, come back into this stuff and take the small bites in the process that's going on. And so, you know, we had to learn the hard way though.
Yeah.
You know, we had to watch one of our veterans not be okay. And so it's glad that, that you identify, like, you know, like taking a knee is important sometimes, but it doesn't mean you're out.
Yeah.
You're still here.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
It's like a long marathon.
Yeah.
And you know what? We get to mile 10 and shit, I got to get a glass of water and hang out or something. So it's all good. So we're doing the best we can with what we got.
Well, and thinking about like taking a knee, are there other, because obviously surfing is a huge medicine, like being out in the water, but are there other wellness practices that you guys teach, or like breathwork, meditation, or journaling, or different practices or tools that you feel like have been really beneficial?
Well, we are exercising all kinds of elements to bring wellness. And, you know, one of the oldest practices is meditation and breathing, and, you know, and taking the time to slow down. And so we're getting more into those elements of, you know, breathing and meditation. Like we do, you know, and have always, like, day one, we'll take 1 minute of meditation. Day two, we'll do 2 minutes of meditation, and day three and all the way to the end. And then we show them at the end of the week that you've been participating and taking care of and practicing wellness and talking and, you know, celebrating the wins and exposing some of the challenges and slowing down enough to, you know, to quiet the mind and to breathe and to exercise and to do what's necessary. And so when you go home, in spite of what your mind is saying, you've just been doing it for a week. So we're letting you know you've been doing it so you can continue it.
I think that's the best way. That's how I
sneaky
wellness, right? Like when I'm working with NFL guys, like I'll put them in a pose and you just kind of talk to them for a while and you're like, okay, you just meditated for like 20 minutes. Like, good job. And like everyone's just like, what? You kind of like have to sneak it on them.
Yeah. But
I'm a big football player. I don't have to meditate.
It's true though that the practice in and of itself has power. I mean, that's why, you know, if you're working with the breath and the mind, then it creates the skills and the temperament in order to be able to respond to when the challenges hit. And so when you're kind of practice, it's like anything. So you get better at surfing by surfing. You get better at breath work by breathing. You get better at understanding your mind, knowing that thoughts are just thoughts. Emotions they're difficult, but they're just emotions. They don't define us, and we are not our thoughts and emotions. And as we learn to kind of separate those things from our own identity, we can make choices then about how we want to show up, just like Van did outside the courtroom, right, in D5.
Yeah. Well, see, when you, it's like if I say, oh, we're going to meditate for 20 minutes, it's like you would instantly, our minds, our brains are built to think, right?
Resistance.
And so you will like create this big roadblock right away. So you go, okay, we're going to meditate for a minute. I can do a minute. You just gave yourself permission,
Right.
So, so then you do a minute and say, okay, well, now day 2, we're going to do it for 2 minutes. Oh, I did 2 minutes or 1 minute. I could do 2 minutes. Before you know it, 5 minutes is like nothing at the end of the week. And so, it's about practice. And it's, I often say it's like we have to allow ourselves. We have to be able to say I can do this instead of like I can't do this, And our minds are really powerful, and it's a real challenge, but it's a huge asset depending on how we use it.
Right.
And so sneaky's good sometimes.
Yeah, it gets us in.
So, but sometimes sneaky's necessary.
Some stubborn folks out there. We got to kind of help out.
Exactly.
So, all right. Well, Justin, I know we've kind of made a full loop here and gone a little bit of different directions. Anything else though about either Operation Surf or your journey that you want to share with us that we didn't ask you about?
No, my journey is always a work in progress, right? So, I just, there's lots of organizations out there that I can think, but I'm part of Operation Surf for a reason. I can be a part of a lot of different organizations, but I chose this because I believe in it, and I believe in the mission because I went through the program, and the program did something to me internally, and that's why I'm out here right now. I don't have to be out here. I chose to be out here. So
I'm gonna identify. He's about to live his dream right now. Yeah, you're chuckling right now. It's because he wanted to drive out here. It's because he always dreamed about just sleeping on the beach and falling asleep with the waves and waking up to waves and going surfing and doing his stuff. And he goes, but we're going to try to make this podcast. And he goes, oh, I don't know if I'll be able to make it. I go, I got another car for you. He goes, well, I didn't want to ask you. I go, there you go. You're not asking to let people know. Yeah. I said, okay. I go, come out here. I got a car for you. So anyway, I have this little minivan I got. And so, we took out the seats. I got a wetsuit and a surfboard and a blow up mattress and some sleeping gear. And so while he's here, he's going to fulfill a dream, and he's going to go park by the beach wherever he wants to. Yeah. He's going to go sleep. And so I'm going to remind you of what you're about to do.
Living your dream.
Living the dream of
dreams
it.
realized.
Let's
go.
Living dream. Because I have a place to be at.
Yeah.
Dave invited me. He's like, hey, there's, shower, there's food, there's all this stuff, and so I realized my living in a van kind of dream kind of is an obstacle because right before this I was like, I need to take a shower, and so I was like, shoot, I don't know where to take a shower at. So friend Justin, he's like, oh, I got to go down here at the port, all this other stuff, it's you got to pay for a heated shower. And I was like, this shower right here is not heated? He's like, no. I was like, okay. Went over there. Shit, I forgot a towel. I don't have a towel. So I came over here. There was no towel in here. I don't know what reason. Like, this is a surf place.
You'd think they'd have a damn towel.
Think they'd have towels here. And so I was like, all right. So I went over here. Everything's going to be expensive on the boardwalk here. So $15. I bought 2 towels, one for surfing, one for, shower. You weren't here. So I, $30 for 2 towels. And I'm like, man. So I went over there. And I thought it was going to be like a little credit card swipe for the showers. Quarters. And I'm like, I don't carry change. So he had some quarters in his little pocket here on his door. It wasn't $2. It was like $1.75. And I'm like, no way. So I was like searching, and there's $1. It's just dollar bill, at the bottom of his thing. I was like, oh crap, cool. So I grab it, and there's a little change machine in the laundry. So yeah, I owe you $1.75. So went over there, got my quarters out of the quarter machine in the laundry, put them in there, water running, soaping up, did my hair and shampoo my hair, and then was loofing my body. Water stopped. Right. And I was like, no way. So I was foamy everywhere, and I'm like, I have no more money, right? Because I don't carry cash, and I'm like, no way. So I went outside in a towel, and I was all soapy, and there's this guy who worked there, and I was like, there's no credit card. He's like, nope, dude. So that was my first experience of that. And
living the dream.
Living the dream. Yep, that's what it is. But I'm gonna go clean the van out because Van likes to keep his van very clean. Oops, I spit everywhere. Very unclean, I guess. So I gotta clean my house out. All right. And I gotta do some housekeeping, and then I'll be fine tonight. So we'll figure it out.
Well, good. Well, we look forward to updates on that. So. I want to just thank you, Justin, for being here.
Yeah,
Van, thanks for helping and be here and telling your story. So, and I know so many of our audience is going to really identify with that. So I really appreciate your vulnerability. And I guess I just want to repeat, as we usually do on all of our podcasts, that you're not alone, and be vulnerable. And if you are not okay, it's okay not to be okay. I mean, we don't want you to stay there, but it's okay to acknowledge that. And there are resources. And so folks, you've got our emails and all that kind of stuff, and there are other places, and just encourage you to open up and ask for help and acknowledge if you're not. And there are people out there who care about you and love you and want you to be here tomorrow. So we're working on that for everybody. So Justin, we're excited. We're going to be here tomorrow when we open up for the Surfathon. We've got the first ever presentation of the Hidden Pearls tailgate tent.
Oh, cool.
Oh, so yeah. We ordered this for this event.
Yeah,
it got delivered this morning.
Nice. We got some T-shirts. So we're going to be all out there, but we're going to be trying to help, and we got our team going, so we're going to do that. So thank you. Van, I want to say thanks to you for this. And again, just encouragement. So there's all kinds of ways people can help. And so Surfathon info is up there. There's a donate button on the website for Operation Surf. There's a picture of all the current board members, or at least on there, but apparently there's some spaces available. So if you have questions about that, if you're afraid to call Van because he's a tough and rumble surfer dude, you can always hit us up, but we'll get you connected. But think about that. And if there's something else that pulls your chain, we encourage you to do that and help some others where you can. And don't be afraid to take a knee when you need one.
That's right. Okay. Love that. Thanks for the reminder.
All right. Thank you, Amanda. All right. Thank you for being on.
Any final words?
Just a quick plug, operationsurf.org, right? So make sure you guys go on there and check it out.
Yeah, and all the links, donation page, and we'll put some more of that in. We'll leave our team thing up for a bit. So if anybody does want to donate, everything, 100%, everything goes to Operation Surf. So we'd appreciate your support with that if you would consider that. So
goals are just, something we want to try to achieve. So if you want to help us blow it out and go way past the goal, please don't let the number hold you back. Right. We need your help and support.
We're visualizing greater than the stated goal.
Yes, let's make it.
Yep.
Make it bigger and better.
We know the answer is always no if we don't ask. And when we do ask, contrary to naming our fears, when we ask for the things in our life that we want, it empowers them and they grow larger and more real. So put it out there to the universe and she'll usually respond.
Good advice.
All right. So, Lubu, anything else?
I'm good. Thank you guys so much. This was awesome.
We're super excited. All right. Hope you enjoyed the show. We got the full mics going. This is going to be super edited, and then we'll add some stuff from our GoPros tomorrow out in the water.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're excited.
The first one back from COVID in person, 4 mics.
This is our first in person. Yeah.
First in person.
Nice, man. Honored to be here with you guys.
Yeah, we're very honored too. All right. Thank you very much. So, cut. Great.
Thanks, guys. Thank you so much for watching that episode, for listening, however you consume that media. But if you want to do us a favor, what would be super helpful is if you shared this episode. It's a great way to push out any content for Operation Surf. If you're interested in getting involved, this is an incredible organization and we can't recommend them enough. So if you have any questions, all the links are in the show notes, but you're always welcome to shoot us a Instagram message. You can send us an email. You can just respond on this. I try to check all the comments regularly, but either way, however you can kind of help to assist, or If you want to get on Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review, that would be super incredible. Also, the more reviews we have, the more people who are going to see this podcast and who are going to understand kind of the mission and also hear the resources that we're trying to share. So thank you so much for being involved. Go Niners. It's so great that football's back. Hidden Pearls podcast is back, and we're glad that you're back. So we'll see you next time.